Morning, everyone. Today we're going to be in Genesis 41 one more time, looking at Joseph's story of his rise to power. Remember, in the previous two Devos, we've learned that this wasn't the big payoff that Joseph deserved for all his years of trial. And it's also perfect timing, even though Joseph had to wait an extra 2 years in prison after the cupbearer left. Today we're going to see a little bit more into Joseph's heart and get a glimpse of the real Joseph and how much God has changed him in the previous 14 years. You see, he's gone from being a self-centered boy to a God-centered man. So Joseph's standing before Pharaoh, and Pharaoh says to Joseph, "I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it." Now, this is Joseph's chance to change his circumstances. Here, Pharaoh is pointing the spotlight directly at Joseph and giving him a chance to gain favor for himself. All Joseph has to do is say, "Yes, that's me." But he doesn't. Joseph humbly says, "It's not in me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer." Then, after that, Pharaoh tells him his dreams, and Joseph again deflects the praise to God, saying, "God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do." This is remarkable. Joseph has the chance here to toot his own horn and to manufacture favor with the most powerful man in the world simply by not mentioning God, and he does not take it. And then again, when Joseph gives Pharaoh advice about what kind of man to look for to prepare for the famine, he doesn't even hint at the thought that he might be that man or that he's trying to suck up to Pharaoh or something like that. He sees nothing. He seeks nothing for himself. He's simply God-centered, even though he could have curried favor with the most powerful man in the world at the time. You see, he's simply free to be who he is, even before Pharaoh, and to let God handle the rest. Now, how can Joseph pass up an opportunity like this and be so God-centered with such a tempting prospect of gaining money, power, fame from Pharaoh? Well, we have to continue through the rest of the episode to see that. And as we do, we'll see that Joseph finds his core identity, how he views himself. He finds that not in wealth, power, what Pharaoh seeks of him, or anything else in this world, but in his relationship to the God of his people, the God who made his covenant with his father, Jacob. I'm not going to read it again. Go read it on your own. I recommend you do. Even if you read it yesterday, it's still good to read it again. I'm going to summarize it. As the episode goes on, we see Pharaoh, of course, realize that Joseph is the man for the job of saving Egypt. And then when Pharaoh brings Joseph up to power, what he does is very interesting. You see, Pharaoh tries to take this Hebrew man, and he tries to make him into an Egyptian ruler. He takes his signet ring and places it on Joseph's finger, allowing Joseph to act as Pharaoh. He clothes him in kingly Egyptian garments. He makes all of Egypt bow to him as if he were a god. He gives him an Egyptian wife. He even changes Joseph's name to Zaphanath-Paneah. And by doing that, Pharaoh is showing Joseph that he believes he owns Joseph and has the right to determine Joseph's identity. He's attempting to take this Hebrew and turn him into an Egyptian monarch, but he's not successful. As the story goes along, like we looked at a couple of days ago, Moses tells us about the naming of Joseph's sons. And as we saw, that's not just extra information. It's a glimpse into Joseph's heart. Remember, Joseph gives them Hebrew names, showing everyone that after 5 to 7 years of ruling under Pharaoh, he is not an Egyptian. He is still a Hebrew. He is still one of God's covenant people. That's how he sees himself, as a slave to Pharaoh. And make no mistake, he is still a slave to Pharaoh. No matter how wealthy or powerful he is Pharaoh's slave. As a slave to Pharaoh, Joseph has no choice but to accept his name from Pharaoh and the wife that Pharaoh gives him. He's an Egyptian. He has an Egyptian master. He has an Egyptian wife. His entire life for the last 20 years has been Egyptian. But when he has a choice, the choice of naming his sons, he shows us that he still finds his core identity as one of God's covenant people, one of God's children. That's how he sees himself, first and foremost. Youth, there are all sorts of things in which you could form your core identity in this world. Lots of things that you could say, this is who I am, how smart you are, how popular you are, how unpopular you are, which, by the way, can still be your core identity, how good you are at anything. Any of those things, if you try to make your core identity any of those things, all you will be able to do is think about yourself and how you can get those things. You'll not be able to love God or others more than yourself. But if you see your core identity as a child of God, first and foremost, then you can let God handle the rest. You see, Jesus has earned everything that you need in order to be a child of God. There's nothing left for you to do, nothing for you to add. You simply rest in that core identity. Then you can make good grades. And if you don't make good grades, that's okay, because that's not who you are. It doesn't change anything about who you are. You can have friends, but if you only have a few friends, you don't have to be disappointed. That doesn't change anything about who you are. You can be good at whatever, X. But if you happen to fail at X, that's okay. It doesn't change who you are. Like Joseph, you simply be who you are and then trust your Heavenly Father with the rest. You think about that. I'll see you again tomorrow.